My name is Anita Buster.
And when was your house built?
The sign says 1914, but it was built in around 1907.
How long have you lived in this house?
Oh my gosh. Well, my grandmother bought this house when I was 5. So that would have been about 1948. And when she passed away, my mother and daddy bought it, and from the children. And so I kind of grew up here. I was in the 8th grade when she died, and then after my mother died, it came to me because I was an only child. So really, it's kind of been home base for me since about 1948. I know that there was a family here before my grandmother bought it. My grandmother's husband died really young. He had leukemia, and at the time she had one daughter who was not married, and she lived with my grandmother here. And the interesting story about my grandmother, of course, that was the time when they had Social Security, but it wasn't very much because it's still not very much. But in order to make a living, my grandmother had boarders, and she had, usually there were 4, and there's a little room on the back that one of the boarders lived in, and then one of the bedrooms had 2 double beds in it, and they men that came here and worked for a while then of course would marry and move on. And every day during the week my grandmother would serve lunch. It was, you get what you get. But different people in the community would come and eat a home-cooked meal here with her, especially the postman. He came every day and ate lunch at my grandmother's table. But my aunt worked for the bank, and of course she married later and moved to Wrigley. But that was how my grandmother made a living.
Do you know how much her lunches cost?
Oh, I doubt it was much more than a quarter, probably. If you think about that time, that was, people didn't have a lot of money. I know that the grocery in town would bring, I remember them delivering groceries to the house because my grandmother didn't drive. She grew up out in the county, and the horse and the buggy were her modes of transportation, but she loved to walk, and she would walk to town when she wanted to go to town, and especially in the rain. She loved to walk in the rain. And my mother and daddy then and my uncle owned New Albany Cleaners downtown. And my uncle would often say when it would start to rain, well, he called her Miss Maybelle. He said Miss Maybelle would be coming to town because it was raining, not pouring down rain, but just a light rain. And she loved to do that. And my favorite memory of her was, it wasn't this swing, but I would sit on the porch with her. I stayed with her a lot, and we would shell butter beans and peas. And at that time, there was no park down here. It was just an empty lot, and an old mule was kept down there. And my grandmother would often threaten as a child that if we went down that area to the park, that something would get us. So many wonderful memories of childhood here with my cousins, and then of course I just grew up in this house. And I know my son lives in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he told me after Charles died, he said, Mother, I just don't believe I can get rid of that house. And I said, but Alan, you'll have to, because your life is there. And you know that you can't keep a house here and live up there. So it'll probably leave the family when I'm